Huh. The room is empty. When I returned from my father-in-law's hospital, I was dumbfounded to see my own room with not a single piece of furniture left. Even when I entered the room, not even a pencil was left. Who on earth could have? I knew who the culprit was, but I muttered anyway. Then immediately, the culprit spoke up. "I cleaned it up for you because it was messy." Mother. Leaning against the door and looking this way, my mother-in-law had a very spiteful smile on her face. Parasites should leave. I knew she didn't like me, but I didn't deserve to be spoken to like that. I've been putting up with it for the sake of Michael's face until now, but I've reached my limit of patience. All right. I cheerfully replied and left my home. I'll go to a hotel for now. And then I'll discuss what to do next. After contacting Michael, I stretched out big. I was in a very clear mood. All right, let's cut everything off. I was excited about what was to come. My name is Ashley Smith. I'm a 35-year-old career woman. I married my husband Michael 5 years ago and am currently living with his parents. My husband Michael is a very kind person. There's not a day I don't think I'm glad I married Michael. I met Michael at the company. We were assigned to the same department, and it all started when I helped with the work. Michael is not exactly what you'd call proficient at his job. Initially, my impression of Michael wasn't great, to be honest. However, as we worked together, my impression of him started to change. Michael was very good at supporting others. He would take on helping a colleague who was working late without complaint and genuinely rejoice in their success. As I saw more of Michael, I found myself increasingly drawn to him. I was the one who asked him out first, and I was the one who confessed my feelings. Of course, I was also the one who proposed. The most nervous I've ever been was not during a business negotiation, but at that moment. Some might say Michael is whipped or that I wear the pants in the relationship. Initially, I worried he might not appreciate my forthright approach, but Michael told me that's what he finds attractive about me. Besides, Michael is not just kind but also a man of substance. He usually defers to my judgment, but when it really matters, he steps up and takes the lead. That's why I'm determined to protect him with all my might and want us to support each other. So, when my in-laws demanded we live with them as a condition of our marriage, I agreed without a frown. Michael was concerned, but I thought it was a small price to pay to marry him. However, my relationship with my in-laws is far from great. They dislike me continuing to work after marriage and often make snide remarks or unreasonable demands. Each time, Michael stands up for me, which they don't find amusing at all. Hey there! What's this? What do you mean? It's breakfast. I get up at 5 a.m. every morning to prepare breakfast and lunch for everyone. Today's breakfast menu was rice, a miso soup with a lot of ingredients. And I made grilled fish, a rolled omelette, and spinach with sesame dressing as well. I think it's a perfectly fine meal for breakfast, but my mother-in-law started nitpicking it. This salty menu is going to make us sick, you know? No, I didn't intend for that. Originally, it was my in-laws who insisted on having a traditional Japanese-style breakfast with 1 soup and 3 sides. I use low-sodium soy sauce and miso, and I'm careful to season lightly using broth. I've explained this many times, but my mother-in-law won't be convinced. Oh, scary, scary. That's how you bully the elderly, huh? Elderly. You're only 55, aren't you? Quiet. Just get on with the meal preparation. The fact is, my mother-in-law is indeed 55. Michael was born when she was 20, and she's always been proud of that. It seems she's always tried to one-up others with her youthfulness, according to Michael, who said she doesn't have any mom friends. But my mother-in-law believes they're just jealous of her youth. Pre-made food again. I hate those stuff. As a daughter-in-law, isn't it natural for you to come back at noon and take care of your in-laws' meals? I'm fed up with these daily exchanges and respond wearily. That's because I have a job, you know? And aren't I the one making lunch every morning? Ever since my in-laws berated me for preparing meals in advance, calling it cutting corners. I've made sure to prepare everything fresh on the same day. When I served leftovers, they complained about that too, so now I just eat them myself. I'm at my wit's end with such a lazy daughter-in-law. My mother-in-law said that before storming off to the living room. Finally feeling a sense of relief, I hurried to finish preparing the meal. Ashley's cooking is delicious today too. Thank you. While Michael eats with a smile, the snide remarks from my in-laws don't reach me. He understands this and tries to stay with me as much as possible. However, our jobs don't always end at the same time. Seizing those moments, my in-laws pounce with their unpleasant comments. Hey! The laundry is piling up. Do it now. Isn't that the laundry you've been hoarding, Father? You're just not attentive enough. That old jerk. I nearly screamed out loud in frustration. But having Michael there makes it bearable. Even though the in-laws still throw their barbs. It was especially about children. The lady next door just had her third child. When will we ever see grandchildren here? That's right, when are we going to have an heir? We need a boy first, after all. My in-laws said with smirks. Then Michael countered with a grin. I don't want to put more pressure on our breadwinner right now, so maybe kids are a bit further down the line, huh? What are you talking about? You're the breadwinner. What? Even though Michael was telling the truth, his father didn't take it seriously. But I felt so grateful that Michael stood up for us like that. When I was your age, Michael was already in middle school, you know? How long are you going to make us wait? It's still early, as Michael also says. It's going to be a while yet. If you keep talking like that, we might just have to push for a divorce. Divorce requires mutual consent, you know? Frustrated that she couldn't dominate me, my strong-willed mother-in-law stomped her feet in vexation. Despite her relentless nagging, I've learned to handle her with a mix of astonishment and composure. Hey Michael, we haven't received this month's living expenses from your dad yet. What? Really? I'll check on that. One day, realizing that the living expenses hadn't been deposited, I asked Michael to confirm. The shocking response came back from his father. We always live on the money Michael earns. Your wife's salary should also contribute to our living expenses. The living expenses come out of Ashley's salary. I'm saving mine. That can't be right. It's impossible for a wife to earn more than her husband. No matter how many times I tried to explain, my father-in-law always assumed that Michael earned more than me and insisted that my salary was nothing. I'm angry, but I'm not trying to brag about my salary. Besides, the living expenses we received from them were just a few $100s a month. This is not even enough to cover our grocery bills. Originally, when we moved in together, my father-in-law objected to our proposal that we pay for everything, saying that he wanted to take over the house. We decided on this as a compromise. We wouldn't be in trouble without it anyway. It's fine, I'll cover it. But that means less money for you to use, Ashley. I'll contribute from my side. Michael said, looking apologetic. I just smiled brightly and made a V sign at him. It's okay. I've been promoted, and my salary will increase from the month after next. Wow, congratulations! You really deserved it. Michael clapped wholeheartedly, truly happy for me. I love this aspect of him. His praise alone helps me forget the daily annoyances. So, we'll keep saving your salary as we've been doing, Michael. Ashley, thank you. Seeing Michael's relieved face also put me at ease. From that point forward, we took on all the living expenses ourselves. That's when I started to notice how recklessly my in-laws were spending. Although she was annoyed at the sight of him buying brand-name goods, the two of them began to go out together on vacations more and more often, and on the surface, their days were peaceful. But that peace didn't last long. I've been told it's cancer. I'm getting admitted. One day, out of the blue, Michael's father called him with this news. Rushing to the hospital, we found him chatting and smiling with a female nurse. You're going to get scolded by your wife, you know. Ah, you're here. After I offered a helping hand to the embarrassed nurse, she thanked me and left. Michael, completely exasperated, addressed his father. What do you mean by cancer? Oh, it's early-stage cancer and still small, so it can be managed with surgery or chemotherapy. That's good to hear, but... No matter how badly he had treated me, to Michael, that man was still his biological father. Seeing Michael slightly relieved after hearing his father's words made me relax a bit as well. Then the doctor returned to the room with mother-in-law. Oh, you guys are here? Because if you receive such a sudden call, you'd be worried, right? Well, it's nothing serious. Oh yes, just a moment. She then started rummaging through her bag. And she honeyed over a document. It was an estimate of the hospitalization and surgery costs. Take care of this payment, will you? What? What? You're my daughter-in-law and you're complaining to me? Who do you think you've been supporting all this time? I'm the one who has supported your life since we got married. I wanted to shout that, but I managed to restrain myself. However, my silence seemed to be misconstrued by mother-in-law as admission. And she began to speak louder, almost giving a speech. With Michael's earnings, you surely won't say you can't pay. Saving money is a good wife's duty, after all. Well, I just couldn't muster the energy to argue anymore and gave a vague response. After that, my father-in-law's hospital stay dragged on. Just when I thought there was no talk of surgery, it turned out that father-in-law was refusing it. The reason was that he found the hospital life comfortable. The hospital where he was staying is well known around here and even celebrities get admitted there. Consequently, the hospital charges are higher than others. He was enjoying the attention from the charming nurses and the delicious meals. Getting used to just lying there and doing whatever he liked, he seemed reluctant to sign the consent form for surgery. We really need to make a decision soon. Yeah, I know, I'm sorry. When I went to collect the laundry, the doctor told me this, and I nodded in agreement. I can't just let my father-in-law keep treating this like a stay at a hotel. After all, the hospital bills are mounting. I'll discuss this with Michael tonight. With that thought, I took the laundry home, ran the washing machine, and then went back to my room. What? The room is empty! Returning from my father-in-law's hospital, I was stunned to see my room stripped of all furniture. Not even a pencil remained when I checked. Who on earth could have? I knew who the culprit was, but I muttered anyway. Then, right away, the perpetrator spoke up. I cleaned it up because it was a mess. Mother. Leaning against the door and looking at me, my mother-in-law wore a particularly spiteful smile. Parasites should leave. I knew she didn't like me, but there was no reason to be spoken to like that. I've been tolerating it for Michael's sake until now, but I've reached my limit. Alrighty then. I cheerfully responded and left my home. I guess I'll head to a hotel for tonight. Then I decided to discuss the next steps with Michael. After contacting Michael, I stretched out big time. I feel utterly relieved. Alright, let's cut ties with everything. I was excited about what was to come. Michael joined me right after his work. I shared the plan and he agreed soon. I'm really sorry about my parents. We put you through a lot. Let's cut ties with them. Hearing Michael say that, I felt a sigh of relief. I had been trying not to let it bother me, but it was undoubtedly a source of stress, so I was relieved to be rid of it. That day, only Michael went home, and we planned to meet up again the next day as if nothing had happened. I called a real estate agent from the business hotel and inquired. Sorry about the house we bought the other day. Yes, can we move in immediately? That's totally fine. Then I'll come to pick up the keys tomorrow, thank you. Michael and I had actually bought a house 2 years ago. Sorry to say, but despite the in-laws nagging about grandchildren, we had decided not to have kids. Instead, we used our savings to buy a vacation home for some respite. Fortunately, we had set up the handover for the following weekend, so they could accommodate us right away. I informed Michael that we could move into the house immediately, and I went to bed that night. The next day, I collected the keys from the real estate agent and entered our new home. It was a custom-built house designed entirely around our preferences. A study, bedroom, kitchen, they incorporated everything we wanted. Now, this is our very own place. Feeling elated, I lay sprawled out in the living room, which was still devoid of any furniture. Just then, Michael called, prompting me to go out and buy some furniture. We had already arranged for appliances like the refrigerator to be delivered that weekend, but we hadn't decided on the furniture yet. We bought the pieces we had our eyes on and even carried the mattress back ourselves. By the weekend, furniture and appliances started arriving at our home. It was quite a moment when everything began to settle. "Oh, it's Mom." Michael received a call from mother-in-law on his smartphone. As he answered the phone next to me, mother-in-law's voice was so loud it almost hurt my ears. "Michael! Where are you?" She seemed utterly flustered, and I could hear her breathing heavily over the phone. Michael listened silently at first, but then responded nonchalantly. "We're not coming back, ever." "What? Why?" Mother-in-law sounded genuinely baffled. Michael replied calmly. "Do you two even realize what you think of my wife? Ashley is the most important person to me. Didn't I vow to make her happy for the rest of our lives?" I could hear her breath hitch at Michael's words. Michael rarely gets angry, but when he does, he speaks in a calm, collected manner. It seemed like his mother finally realized that he was truly upset. "Michael. All those daily snide remarks and unreasonable demands. Did you think I wouldn't notice? But, that is. I've had enough. We're cutting ties for good." The moment Michael declared they were severing ties, a desperate cry came from the other end of the phone. Ignoring his mother's pleas, Michael hung up. "Ashley, I'm really sorry." "No, Michael. You've always been there to protect me." Michael smiled apologetically at my words. To tell the truth, I had been holding back because I didn't want them to see me like this, but it seems that Michael was the same way, unable to hold back because of her in-laws' excessive behavior, and even without this incident, she was planning to separate from them in the near future. Hearing this made me fall even more in love with him. When I told Michael how I felt, he smiled joyfully. It was about 2 weeks later when I received a call from his mother. "Hey! Haven't you paid for your father's hospital bills yet?" "What?" I was utterly flabbergasted at her opening remark. Who in the world pays the hospital bills for someone they've cut ties with? "Well, we're not doing it anymore. His wallet is empty, and there's a pile of laundry waiting. Get over here right now." It was just recently that Michael declared our separation from them, yet it seems she doesn't remember. I decided to ask out of curiosity. We don't have to support someone we've severed ties with, right? "That's it. What have you told my son? Come back here right now. I'll forgive you if you grovel." It seems she believes I manipulated Michael into saying those things. I sighed and decided to tell her the truth. We're already living in our new home, and we plan to change our phone numbers next week. Don't you believe your own son's words? You must have influenced him. Just send Michael back. Don't you dare use his earnings. She, like her husband, seems to believe that Michael earns more than I do. I calmly explained our current situation. Didn't Michael tell you? He started his own business, so now I earn more than him. What? The truth is, Michael had always wanted to pursue something. There was a business in social welfare. Knowing this, I supported him. Finally, about 6 months ago, things fell into place, and he launched his enterprise. I was internally worried whether Michael, who isn't competitive, could manage a business. However, many talented people who were drawn to his character joined him, filling in where needed. Even though it's just the beginning, Michael's business is gradually increasing its profits. I've told you multiple times, I've been the one covering our living expenses, hospital bills, and even father-in-law's allowance. That can't be true. Do you want us to send you our pay stubs to prove it? After hearing all this, my mother-in-law finally seemed to believe me. Then, mumbling something under her breath, she spoke again. Do you have anything else you need? No. Well, could you possibly come back? What? I was taken aback by her sudden request, unable to comprehend. Suddenly, my mother-in-law started to talk volubly. Look, this house is big, and Michael just started his business, it must be hard, right? I can help out. That's right. Let's live together and help each other out like we used to. Like we used to? I repeated her last words. In other words, my mother-in-law wants us to come back and work as we have always done, doing housework like a servant and working like a cart horse. I'd love to see someone who would agree to that. No, thank you. We disliked our previous lifestyle, which is why Michael and I ended up making this decision. But, if we could just meet halfway. Meet halfway? You've never once tried to meet us halfway. She kept insisting over the phone that things were different. But I couldn't see how. Then, perhaps out of desperation, she made an audacious request. Well, even if you don't come back, I'll forgive you. So, could you at least pay for your father's hospital bills, please? No, I don't think so. What? I wondered why she thought I would agree after all that. I sighed, exasperated. Cutting ties means ending all connections, you know? So no matter what you say, we won't provide any more support. Then let me talk to Michael at least. I looked over at Michael, who had been in the same room. He was listening to everything because the phone was on speaker. Michael looked at me and shook his head. I nodded in understanding and responded to my mother-in-law. Michael has heard everything. And he doesn't want to talk. What? She kept repeating why as if she couldn't grasp the situation. I offered a brief farewell and ended the call unilaterally. When she called back soon after, I ignored it. It's fine, don't answer it. Okay, got it. I replied and set my in-laws' numbers to be blocked on my phone. Michael did the same. We thought it was all over, but the persistence of our in-laws was beyond our imagination. A few weeks later, they showed up at our new home. Hey! Open up! Let's have a talk. You're being too forceful. While they said whatever they pleased, banging on the door repeatedly. I decided to respond through the intercom to avoid disturbing the neighbors. How did you find out where we live? We hired a detective, of course. You made us waste our money. I sighed at my father-in-law's angry outburst. Normally, people wouldn't seek out someone who said they wanted to cut ties and hadn't shared their new address. The fact that they went to such lengths, even hiring a detective to find us, showed they hadn't reflected at all. I kept my voice low and responded coolly. Is that so? We were supposed to have ended this conversation. It's your fault I had to be discharged. Give me the money. Admit me again. That discharge was due to your continued refusal of surgery, wasn't it? I heard the chemotherapy was completed as well. Just a few days ago, the hospital had contacted Michael. Apparently, my father-in-law kept refusing surgery, the chemotherapy couldn't shrink the cancer any further, and he was behind on hospital payments. On top of that, he caused trouble by harassing female nurses. Seeing Michael so drained and pitiful was heart-wrenching. Yet, my father-in-law showed no remorse, still fuming on the other side of the intercom. It's all your fault. If you have money, why not give it? I allowed you to work, didn't I? I didn't ask for your permission. What an ungrateful daughter-in-law. I should re-educate you. Come out here. No thanks. My father-in-law turned red with rage at my response. Beside him, smirking, my mother-in-law tried to engage me. Listen, Ashley. I think we both had some misunderstandings. Let's just forget everything and move on, shall we? Her voice was meek, but her expression exuded an odd confidence that I would surely forgive her. I sighed before responding. Mother, the phrase "let's put it behind us" is used by those who have been wronged, not by the perpetrators. We were the bad ones? Just because I show some humility, you think you can walk all over us? Where is Michael? I'll take him back with me. I couldn't help but laugh at my mother-in-law revealing her true colors. I knew why they had come to our house today. Because a neighbor who lives close by had shared the gossip with me. I mentioned it directly. You both came here to beg for money today, didn't you? Is that appropriate behavior? Begging? We came here to claim the money you owe us. Father, that's what you call begging. I burst into laughter in front of the intercom. My laughter only fueled my father-in-law's anger. But I didn't care. I continued to inform him calmly. Father, you're being sued by a nurse, aren't you? It's not acceptable to touch or say inappropriate things to someone who isn't your wife, especially in today's world. Why do you know that? No, that's not it. She came on to me. In fact, my father-in-law had been accused by the nurse of demanding excessive services and was being sued by the hospital. Michael and I were informed about the discharge and the lawsuit when we heard from the hospital, but it seemed my mother-in-law was unaware. What do you mean, honey? Oh, no, it's not what it seems, it's not an affair. While my father-in-law scrambled to explain, I added more fuel to the fire. What was it again? Oh, right. My wife is getting old, so I don't feel that way about her anymore, wasn't it? What? My mother-in-law's face turned furious as she glared at my father-in-law. I had heard from Michael that she despised being belittled due to her age, having had her children earlier than most of her friends. My father-in-law turned pale and tried to placate her. What are you guys doing? Just then, Michael arrived home. I had contacted him as soon as his parents showed up. When Michael's parents saw him, they desperately clung to him. Michael, come back. I can introduce you to a younger and prettier woman than that wicked one. Honey, did you go to that place again? Michael's mother raised her voice sharply in response to her husband's words. No, it's not like that. Michael, listen. Your father has been cheating. That's not cheating, it's... Even through the intercom, it was clear that Michael was looking at his parents with a cold gaze. While they were ranting, Michael remained silent. Noticing this, his parents suddenly tried to sweet-talk him. Just come back for now. You'll find someone better quickly. Don't worry about it. Their true intention to use him as their own personal wallet was blatantly obvious, but Michael just smiled at them. At that moment, the in-laws thought they had him softened, but they were about to be dropped into the abyss. Can you please stop this nonsense? What? I've already said we're cutting ties. Don't say such convenient things after hurting the person I love. Just then, a police car pulled up in front of our house. Michael greeted the officer with a smile. Excuse me, are you the one who made the report? Yes, I'm sorry, but these people were sitting in front of our house causing a nuisance. We received similar reports from your neighbors. Come on guys, you can't be causing trouble like this. The officer looked at them, while they turned white with shock. Michael, ignoring his parents, greeted the officer and came inside. I hope the officer will handle it from here. Sorry for interrupting your work. There's nothing more important than your safety, Ashley. With those words from Michael, I felt incredibly proud and hugged him. A few minutes later, the officer informed us through the intercom that my in-laws had left. We thanked the officer for his help. It seems the telling off they got from the police officer made a difference because after that, my in-laws never came to our house again. It turns out my father-in-law couldn't return to his previous hospital and ended up getting surgery at a public hospital. They sold their house to cover the surgery costs and now live cramped in a tiny studio apartment. The leftover money from the house sale was used to pay the surgery bills and as compensation to the nurses and the hospital for the trouble caused. They once tried to get in touch with us through a relative, But since we had already filled that relative in on the situation, they blocked them on our behalf. It seems they thought everything would be fine as long as they didn't come to our house. And they kept trying every which way to contact us. So, I am relieved that I have not heard from them since I was told through my lawyer that they are not allowed to approach us. By the way, me and Michael were quite involved in our community and apparently well liked among the local housewives. My parents-in-law lived in a state of isolation from everyone around them until they sold the in-laws' house, claiming that they had kicked us out. After selling the family home, my in-laws were rejected by every landlord in the neighborhood and had to leave the area they had lived in for so long. I heard from relatives that they were completely out of money and started working to make ends meet. However, my mother-in-law had never worked before, and her stubborn nature meant she couldn't hold down a job for long. This seemed to be causing a lot of strain in their marriage. As for us, we recently found out we're expecting. While we were stressed about my in-laws, the thought of having children seemed daunting, but now that we're actually expecting, we feel an overwhelming sense of love. Michael feels the same way, smiling joyfully and caressing my belly every day. Of course, we have no intention of telling the in-laws. We believe that not allowing them to see their most desired grandchild grow up is the best revenge. Michael's business is doing well, with nearly 100 employees now. Recently, we've been getting more clients and are gearing up for even busier times. I've decided to quit my job since I'm expecting a baby. This was something I've been contemplating ever since Michael started his business. I plan to help out with his work. Moving forward, we want to grow the company together as a couple. Lately, our shared hobby has been knitting. On our days off, we knit things for the baby together. I'm working on a yellow hat, and Michael is making a light blue one, and these peaceful moments are incredibly joyful for us now. I'd be thrilled if our baby turns out to be a girl. I'd be happy either way, you know. I feel the same. Oh, but when she grows up and gets married. Oh, I'm getting teary just thinking about it. I chuckled and patted Alex's head as he got misty-eyed just imagining it. The sky is blue. How about Sky for a name? That's a coincidence, I was thinking the same. We looked at each other and laughed. I hope these happy days last forever. That's what I thought while knitting.